tension yielding. So tension yielding occurs when the stress on the gross area of a section is large enough to cause excessive deformation. So first thing, the tension yielding will occur in the gross area. So in the gross area, if yielding occur in that portion, we consider it as a failure, and that will be termed as tension yielding failure. So in that case, there will be excessive deformation in the member, and that deformation will be considered as failure. If we recall, in case of rigidity failure, we discussed one example that in case of beam, if the deflection is excessive, we considered it as a failure. Similarly, in case of tension member, if the deformation is excessive, then we consider it as a failure. So here we need to note that yielding in the net section is not a failure. So yielding at this position at the connection is not a failure, but the yielding in the gross section is a failure. Why? Because the net section is limited in length, and hence elongation due to the yielding may not be excessive. What it means? For example, the applied load on this member is such that this member has reached up to its yield strength, or the stress in that member has reached up to yielding Fy. So technically, all the member, every point of the member will yield. But if we consider the deformations, so this much portion where we have the gross area, here the length is larger, so the deformation in this portion will be too much or excessive deformation. For example, if this length is 2 meter and the deformation is 1%, so here 20 millimeter deformation will occur in this portion. And in this area, if this is 200 millimeter, the total length is 200 millimeter, then in this much portion there will be only 2 millimeter deformation, and this 2 millimeter deformation is much smaller as compared to this 20 millimeter deformation. So we will consider this elongation or this area, the yielding in this area, as a failure, but the yielding in this portion we will ignore that. Why? Because the deformation corresponding to that yielding are not that much high. Okay, so if we see in this figure, so this is our gross area, so here there will be yielding. So yielding will be over here, and in case of tension yielding, we need to consider the whole area while calculating the strength corresponding to tension yield limit state.